I used to be big into urban exploration a few years ago. Nothing extreme, just old schools, hotels, churches, whatever looked forgotten and half buried in time. I never messed with anything. I didn't steal, I didn't break stuff. I just liked taking photos and seeing places that most people forgot even existed. This story happened back in 2019. I was in Detroit with two friends, Mike and Jeremy. We'd been planning a weekend trip to check out some of the city's more infamous abandoned spots. We had a list of places we wanted to hit, and on the second day, we came across this old Gothic-style church. I'm not going to say the exact location, but it was somewhere on the east side. Boarded up windows, vines climbing up the stone, one of those tall spires that still looked pretty intact despite everything around it falling apart. From the outside, it looked almost peaceful. Quiet. Too quiet, honestly. We found a broken window around the side, just big enough to squeeze through. Inside, the place was completely still. Dust in the air. Wooden pews knocked over or missing. The stained glass windows were mostly shattered, but there were a few panels still hanging in there, casting these colored shadows across the floor. We split up, just looking around, filming a bit for Instagram. I was drawn to the altar area, just staring at how strange it felt with no one there. Like, even after all this time, it still felt like a church. The silence had weight. That's when I saw the door behind the pulpit. It was mostly hidden in shadow, but there was a faded, private sign nailed crookedly on it. I called Mike over and pointed it out. He raised his eyebrows like, "You sure?" I shrugged and said, "We'll just check it out and come back up." The door wasn't locked. It groaned like hell when I pulled it open. The air changed right away. It was colder, smelled like wet concrete and something metallic. There was a set of narrow wooden stairs leading down into the dark. They didn't look too sturdy, but we figured if we stepped carefully, we'd be all right. I turned on my flashlight. Mike followed close behind. Jeremy decided to stay upstairs, said he'd keep watch in case anyone showed up. I remember him saying something like, "Y'all go ghost hunting. I'll wait for the screaming." He was joking. At least I think he was. The basement was different. The air felt heavier. The second my feet hit the bottom step, I got this weird sensation in my chest. Not fear exactly, more like pressure, like something didn't want us down there. The space was bigger than I expected. Concrete walls, old pipes overhead, some broken furniture scattered around, a few rusted filing cabinets, empty shelves, dust, mold, and water stains everywhere. But then I noticed the room at the far end. A metal door half open. The beam from my flashlight caught something shiny just beyond it. We walked toward it slowly. I don't know why, but neither of us was really talking at that point. There was this feeling like we were intruding, like we were stepping into a part of the church that was never meant to be seen. We pushed the door the rest of the way open, and that's when things got weird. Inside was a small square room, probably no bigger than a walk-in closet. The walls were covered in these hand-drawn symbols. Circles, triangles, lines, stuff I didn't recognize. Some of it looked like it was drawn in black paint, but some of it was brown, dried, flaky. There were melted candles all over the place. On the floor, tucked into cracks, lined up on a shelf that looked like it used to hold hymn books. In the center of the room was a small wooden table. Nothing on it, except for what looked like a ceramic bowl, half cracked, filled with something dried and red. I remember looking at Mike and seeing him squint at the wall. He said, real quiet, "Dude, is that Latin?" I didn't answer. I don't know Latin, but something about the symbols and writing just felt wrong. Like it didn't belong here. Not in a church basement. Then we both heard something. A sound from somewhere behind us. Not loud, not aggressive, just a soft dragging sound across the concrete floor. We turned around fast, my flashlight beam bounced all over the room, caught dust and old pipes, nothing else. But the noise stopped, and that made it worse. I called out, "Jeremy?" But I already knew it wasn't him. He was upstairs. There was no way he got past us without us hearing the stairs. Mike whispered, "Let's go. Now." We backed out of that room and started moving back toward the stairs. and that's when my flashlight flickered. Just once. But in that split-second flicker, I swear, I saw someone standing just beyond the doorway to the ritual room. Just still, watching us. The flashlight steadied, and there was nothing there. We didn't speak, we just moved faster. When we got to the stairs, we heard a loud clang behind us, like metal hitting metal. It echoed like crazy. We didn't turn around, we just ran up those old stairs like they were on fire. When we burst back into the church, Jeremy looked at us like we were nuts. He said he hadn't heard anything. He said we were only down there for maybe 5 minutes. Felt like longer. We told him what we saw. He laughed at first. But when we showed him the photos we took, the symbols, the candles, the bowl, his face dropped. He said, "I thought this was just some old broken down church. That stuff looks satanic, man." We left. Didn't say much after that. We tried to laugh it off like it was just a creepy basement and maybe someone used it as a hideout or for some weird art project. But later that night, Mike couldn't sleep. He called me around 2 a.m. and said he kept hearing whispering in his apartment. Said it sounded like someone saying his name over and over, really slow. He moved out of that place not long after. I didn't have anything like that happen to me, but I couldn't stop thinking about that shadow in the doorway. The way the symbols made my stomach twist. The sound that came from nowhere. A few weeks later, I looked up the church again, tried to find any history on it. What I found wasn't much. But there were a few posts on some old forums talking about a series of disappearances in the area back in the late 80s. People vanishing near that block, no suspects, no explanations. And then one comment from someone claiming they grew up nearby. It just said, "That church was never holy. It wasn't abandoned, it was left behind. They used to say the basement was sealed for a reason." I never went back. Still think about it sometimes, though. Places like that, they keep things. Whatever was done down there, it didn't stay in the past. It's still there. I used to explore tunnels, not for work or anything. It started out as just curiosity. I was always into abandoned places, weird, forgotten spaces, stuff most people don't think twice about. But eventually, I got into subway tunnels. There's something different about them. You feel like you're walking through the veins of the city. No sunlight, no noise, except for the occasional train rumbling way off in the distance. Just shadows, rust, and sometimes graffiti that feels like it's whispering something back at you. Anyway, this happened a few years ago in New York. I was visiting for a week and I had one place I really wanted to check out, the Freedom Tunnel. If you've never heard of it, it's this long abandoned stretch under Riverside Park. It used to be part of the Amtrak system. Over time, it became known for all the graffiti down there, especially pieces by this artist named Freedom, hence the name. It's also got a kind of reputation with urban explorers. Some people say it's haunted. Others say it's just not safe because of squatters or sketchy stuff going on down there. I'd watched some videos about it before. I figured if I went during the day and kept to myself, I'd be fine. So one morning I packed light. Just my phone, flashlight, backup battery, and a bottle of water. Got in through a side entrance near 125th. It took a little squeezing through a fence and dropping down some rocks, but eventually I was inside. The air was damp and still. My footsteps echoed in both directions. Graffiti covered nearly every surface. Some of it was beautiful, others just strange. Symbols, faces, words in languages I didn't recognize. At first I was just filming, taking it all in, talking to the camera here and there for my channel, hey guys, today I'm in the Freedom Tunnel, that kind of thing. I walked for maybe 20 minutes, just weaving through the darkness, stopping every so often to look at a new mural or tag. It felt calm, almost peaceful. But then I started hearing something behind me. At first, I thought it was just my echo bouncing off the tunnel walls. You walk long enough in silence, your brain starts playing tricks on you. But it wasn't my footsteps. It was too soft, like someone trying not to be heard. A scuffle here, a step there, then silence again. I turned around a few times, shined my flashlight down the path I'd just come from. Nothing. Just more darkness and empty tracks. I told myself it was probably a rat or water dripping, maybe even another explorer. I tried to brush it off, but the feeling didn't go away. You know how sometimes you know someone's watching you? You don't hear it, you don't see it, but something in your body just knows? Yeah, that feeling was crawling all over my back. I kept walking, but slower now, stopping more often, looking behind me more than in front. About 10 minutes later, I passed a break in the wall where sunlight was cutting through from a street grate above. I stood under it, letting the light hit me for a second, and that's when I saw it. A shadow. Just at the edge of the light, about 30 feet behind me. Not moving, just standing there. I froze. A chill ran down my arms. I called out, "Hello?" No answer. I lifted my flashlight and aimed it straight at the figure, but it was gone. I walked back a few steps, aimed my light into every dark spot. Nothing. Nobody. Just my own breathing. That's when I decided I needed to start heading back. I turned around and started retracing my steps, but now I wasn't stopping to film. I wasn't looking at graffiti. I was focused. And the footsteps, they came back, always behind me, never close, just following. Just enough for me to know I wasn't alone. At one point I stopped completely, turned around fast. The footsteps stopped too. I stood there for a full minute, flashlight steady, hand on my phone just in case I had to call for help. Still nothing. No sound, no movement. I kept going. Eventually I got tired. It had been over an hour. I figured I was getting close to the exit again. I saw a little alcove off to the side and stepped into it, just to sit down and take a breather. The space was small, like a utility area or something. Graffiti all over, old cardboard, broken glass. I turned off my flashlight for just a second to rest my eyes. And that's when I heard it. Right behind me. A voice. Low. Raspy. Just said,
"I used to live up there."
My heart stopped. I turned around and flipped my flashlight back on instantly. The beam jumped around wildly, but there was nobody there. The space behind me was empty. No footsteps, no voice, just silence again. I backed out of that alcove and didn't stop moving until I was outside in the daylight, leaning against a fence, shaking. I never saw the person's face. I don't know how long they were watching me. Could have been the whole time. Could have been someone who used to live in the tunnel, like the voice said. Or maybe someone still does. Either way, I haven't gone back. This happened about 5 or 6 years ago, back when I was still into urban exploring with a couple buddies. We were living near Detroit at the time. And if you know anything about Detroit, you probably know there's no shortage of abandoned places to check out. One of the most famous spots is the old Packard automotive plant. It's this massive, decaying factory, like a whole neighborhood-sized building that's been left to rot for decades. We'd heard stories about it, obviously. Creepy stuff, weird people living in there, things like that. But we figured most of it was just exaggerated. I mean, people always like to add drama to abandoned places. We weren't newbies either, so we went in with flashlights, backup batteries, boots, water, the usual gear. It was me, my friend Rob, and our other buddy Marcus. We went in late afternoon, probably around 5:30. Sun was still up, but fading fast. We figured we'd get in, explore a bit, take some photos, maybe even shoot a little video if we found anything cool, then get out before dark. The place was quiet, like almost too quiet. You expect to hear wind blowing through broken windows, rats skittering around, maybe a bird or two, but it was just still. No sound at all, except our footsteps and the occasional echo from a broken bottle or loose pipe. We were walking through one of the main assembly areas, this huge open space with parts of the ceiling collapsed, graffiti everywhere, and debris all over the floor. There were these long metal beams hanging from above that would sway and creak a little if you bumped into anything. And somewhere off to the left, we all kind of stopped at the same time because we saw someone. They were just standing there, off in the distance, half in the shadows. Looked like a man, maybe wearing a hoodie or something, just standing behind a broken pillar. At first, we thought it was another explorer. That's not super rare. The place is public enough that you'll sometimes run into other people doing the same thing. So Rob called out,
"Yo, you good?"
trying to be friendly, but the guy didn't move. Didn't say anything either. We waited a few seconds. Nothing. Then Marcus shined his light toward that area, and I swear, the second the beam hit that spot, the guy was gone. Not like he ducked or ran or anything. Just not there anymore. It freaked us out a little, but we played it off. He probably just walked off while we weren't looking, you know? So we kept going, trying not to let it get in our heads. Maybe 15 minutes later, we found this narrow stairwell going down to one of the lower levels. It smelled awful, like mold and wet rust, but that's normal for places like that. The stairs were sketchy, but we made it down and ended up in this weird little corner area, like an old office or break room or something. And tucked behind a collapsed wall, we found this space that looked like someone had been living there. There was a sleeping bag, old fast food wrappers, some dirty clothes, even a lantern and a couple knives laid out on a blanket. That gave us pause because, yeah, that wasn't just someone passing through. That was a setup, like someone was staying there regularly. What really got us, though, and this still messes with me, were the photos. There was a little pile of Polaroids next to the sleeping bag. Some were old and faded, others looked newer, and they were of people. Strangers. Some looked like they were taken at night from behind. Like the subjects didn't even know they were being photographed. One of them, and I swear to God this is true, was of a guy standing at a gas station, and the angle made it look like the photo was taken from inside a car, maybe across the parking lot. We didn't say anything at first. We just stood there looking at each other like, what the hell did we just walk into? That's when we heard it. A scraping noise. Somewhere behind us, back in the direction of the stairwell. Then a soft, low whistle. Just one long, slow note like someone trying to get your attention. I looked at Rob, he looked at Marcus, and we all knew we needed to leave. Now. We started backing out, retracing our steps as fast as we could without tripping over rubble. Our lights were kind of swinging around, and every time one of us turned a corner, I felt like something was going to be standing there. But nothing showed up. Not yet. We got back upstairs, and that's when it really started getting bad. We saw him again. This time, closer. Still keeping his distance, still silent, but definitely following us now. We'd go left, he'd appear on the left, we'd go right, he'd be on the right. Always just barely visible, like he knew the building better than we did. He never said a word, never came running, but every time we turned around, there he was, watching. And the weirdest thing was the sounds he made. They weren't normal. He started doing this thing with his mouth, like clicking and chirping, almost like trying to mimic a raccoon or some kind of animal. At first we thought maybe he was mentally ill, but then, I don't know. It just felt wrong. Like he was doing it on purpose, like he was playing a game. We were full on sprinting now, trying to find a way out that wasn't collapsed or blocked. But every hallway we went down felt like it led to a dead end. And somehow, no matter how fast we moved or where we went, he kept up. Always just far enough to be barely out of reach, but always there. At one point, I dropped my flashlight. It rolled across the floor and stopped. And that guy stepped out, picked it up, and gently placed it upright in the middle of the floor, then backed away into the dark again. I didn't even go get it. I just left it. I had my backup light, and I wasn't going anywhere near him. Eventually, after what felt like forever, we found one of the big garage doors that had been pried halfway open. We ducked under it, ran across this empty lot full of weeds and trash, and didn't stop until we were like 3 blocks away. All 3 of us just collapsed onto the ground, catching our breath. We never saw him again after that. Didn't call the cops. Didn't tell anyone at the time either. We figured they wouldn't believe us anyway. Hell, if I hadn't been there, I'm not sure I'd believe it. It felt like something out of a movie. But it happened. We went back to Rob's house that night, didn't even talk much. Just sat there quietly for a while. I remember thinking how close we were to something, I don't even know. something bad. That guy, he wasn't right. He wasn't just some homeless dude squatting for shelter. He was watching us. I haven't done any urban exploring since, and I never will again.